Imagine a single sentence in a courtroom revealing how far we've drifted from responsibility. Morning light combed the old oak benches, lifting dust like smoke in a church. Coffee steamed from foam cups along the wall. Keys clicked, paper sighed. A cough died in someone's sleeve. Judge Caprio looked up from a stack of citations with the unhurried attention of a man who'd heard everything and still preferred the truth. The clerk called a name. A lanky boy stepped to the stand, 17, hooded sweatshirt loud with a brand he didn't need to announce, earbuds hanging like ornaments, jaw working a piece of gum. He didn't look scared. He looked bored. Caden Ross, Caprio said, voice friendly but even. 3 speeding citations in a month, and 1 for stopping in a school zone. What do you want me to know? Caden shrugged, a small shrug that carried the weight of a household. My dad will pay. Sound thinned across the room. A chair creaked. Someone exhaled a quiet wow. The judge set his pen down with care, as if it might bruise the wood. Will he? Caprio said. Not a question so much as a mirror. Caden's eyes slid to the gallery, then back. We're not hurting anybody. It's just a fine. We, the judge repeated. Me and my friends. A flicker of pride, the kind borrowed from other people's money. Dad says not to make it a big deal. Caprio folded his hands. Is he here today? No. He's busy. He runs a business. The boy said it like a shield. The judge nodded once, filing away more than the words. The room felt tighter, as if the walls had leaned in to listen. When a person says, my dad will pay, Caprio replied, the bank may be satisfied, but the debt doesn't close. It sits in you, collecting interest. Caden snorted, softer than he meant to. It's just a ticket. The judge's gaze never hardened, but it deepened. A ticket is what the city wrote. Your life is what you're writing. The boy rolled the gum against his cheek, but the bravado had lost its shine. He glanced toward the doors, as though time might rescue him. Caprio shifted the file aside. Tell me something, son. If your father pays the bill, who learns the lesson? Caden had no answer ready. His hoodie suddenly looked like a uniform that didn't fit. In the back row, a man coughed. The sound popped the silence and disappeared. Outside, a siren drifted and faded. This isn't a scolding, the judge said, softer now. It's a measurement of what you carry and what you hand off because it's heavy. The boy's face twitched, an expression gone before it arrived. Look, I didn't hit anybody. No, Caprio agreed. But you missed somebody. He let the line hang. You missed yourself. The clerk's pen clicked, a metronome in the quiet. Caden shifted his weight from one sneaker to the other, as if the floor had tilted. Here's what I see, Caprio went on. A bright morning, a school zone, a car that can do more than its driver knows, and a young man who thinks consequences are a courier service. The gum slowed. The boy blinked. We'll talk about the fines, Caprio said at last. But the price isn't the number on a slip. It's whether you keep borrowing adulthood and sending the invoice to your father. He lifted the citation again, but his eyes never left the kid. Sit. Breathe. We're going to speak plainly now. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Caprio didn't reach for the fine schedule. He angled his chair as if he were turning toward a kitchen table. Caden, set the tickets aside. Who are you when the engine's off? The boy tugged at the drawstring of his hoodie, eyes fixed on a knot that wasn't there. Senior year. Maybe not for long. My dad says I don't need a diploma if I've got drive. A tiny smile at his own pun, gone before it landed. He'll bring me into the business. What does your mother think? Caprio asked. Caden's jaw worked once, then stilled. She died when I was 9. The judge nodded, not with pity, but recognition. And your father? He's busy. Caden swallowed. Late dinners. Early calls. Sometimes we text from the same house. A murmur thinned across the benches and faded. The judge kept his voice level. So you spend a lot of time alone. I've got a car. The boy's chin lifted a fraction. He gave it to me on my birthday. Caprio's gaze held, steady as a level. Do you know why I'm not asking what kind of car? Caden looked up, wary. Why? Because the make doesn't matter when the seat is empty. The line hung there, like dust and sun. The clerk stopped writing. Someone's keys clicked once, then went quiet. Caden frowned. I'm not empty. No, the judge said. You're unaccompanied. There's a difference. When no one rides with you, rules feel optional and time feels cheap. The boy shifted. I don't see what this has to do with speeding. It has everything to do with it, Caprio answered. Some kids press the gas because they're late. Some press it so silence can't catch them. Caden's mouth opened, closed. He stared at the grain of the table. It's just boring at home. Boredom is a polite word for lonely, Caprio said softly. And loneliness is a dangerous driver. He let the room breathe. What do you want after school, Caden? Not what you've been told. What you want. The boy blinked, as if no one had asked that in a while. I don't know. I like fixing things. Engines. Computers. Stuff other people throw away. Good, Caprio said. Fixing things is a vocation. Breaking them is a habit. Caden's shoulders eased a notch. It's easier to break, he said, almost to himself. That's why everyone does it, the judge replied. It's also why it means nothing. A page turned under Caprio's hand. You said your father will pay. He can. But you can't outsource growing up. He leaned in, voice low. And if you keep subcontracting the cost of your choices, the bill won't stop at money. The boy's eyes glassed, not with tears, but with the effort of holding a stare. He thinks money solves things. Money solves invoices, Caprio said. It doesn't teach judgment. That arrives only when we're the ones who pay. Silence settled again, less hostile now, more like a room leaning forward. Here's my promise, the judge finished. I'll treat you like a man the second you stop asking to be treated like a customer. Caden nodded once, small but real. The gum had gone quiet. Outside, a siren passed and kept going, as if choosing not to stop here today. Caprio studied the report again, his fingers tracing the margin of the page as if the paper might whisper something he'd missed. The room waited, even the air unwilling to move. Then, without looking up, he asked quietly, Caden, why were 2 of these citations written after midnight? The boy hesitated. Just driving around. Where? Nowhere. Around the city. Nothing open after midnight but trouble, the judge murmured. And yet one of these tickets, he tapped the page, was written outside St. Joseph's Hospital. You remember that? Caden's voice dropped to a whisper. Maybe. I don't know. Caprio lifted his eyes. If I told you your father was there that night, lying in the emergency ward with a heart attack, would you remember then? The courtroom went completely still. Someone's phone vibrated once and was instantly silenced. Caden's head jerked up. No, no one told me. He didn't have to, Caprio said softly. Hospitals keep records. Your name and license plate were logged by a parking camera at 1:43 a.m. You were circling the lot while the doctors were saving his life. Caden's breath hitched. His fingers clenched the edge of the podium. He never said anything. And you never asked, the judge replied. The boy swallowed hard. I didn't know. Caprio's tone didn't rise, but it deepened. You told me your father's too busy to be home. But that night he was home in the only way a man can be when he's fighting to stay alive. You were there too, just on the wrong side of the glass. Caden blinked fast, the mask cracking. I was just driving. I didn't mean. I believe you. Caprio interrupted, calm but final. But meaning nothing doesn't make it mean nothing. The words landed heavy. In the gallery, even the shuffling of feet stopped. Caprio leaned forward. Tell me, Caden, who should pay for that ticket now? The boy's throat moved, but no sound came. He stared at the table as if an answer might be written there. My dad. He tried, then caught himself. No, me. It's mine. The judge nodded once. A teacher acknowledging the first correct answer of a long semester. Good. That's where accountability begins, where excuses end. He closed the folder gently, like lowering a lid on a memory. Your father's heart is weaker now. He'll recover, if he slows down. The question is, will you? Caden wiped his eyes quickly, pretending to scratch his cheek. He didn't tell me, he whispered again. Maybe he didn't want me to worry. Or maybe, Caprio said, he didn't think you'd listen. The boy looked up sharply, caught between shame and anger. You don't know him. No, Caprio admitted. But I've known hundreds of fathers like him. Men who work until the silence in their house gets too loud. They try to fill it with things. Cars. Gifts. Anything but time. Caden's jaw trembled. He just wanted me to have something nice. And you did, Caprio replied. He gave you the freedom to drive, and you used it to get further from him. The line struck like a soft bell, echoing long after the sound itself died. Caden's voice cracked. I didn't know he was. I thought he didn't care. He cared enough to keep paying your fines, the judge said. That's not indifference, son. That's a man's clumsy way of loving when words fail him. The boy exhaled shakily, his shoulders slumping. Then I've been the one not listening. That, Caprio said, is the truest sentence you've spoken today. He leaned back, hands folded. What you do next, how you drive, how you live, will tell him if you finally heard. For a long moment, no one moved. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. Then the judge's pen tapped once against the desk, a quiet punctuation mark at the end of a confession. All right, he said at last, voice low but steady. Now that we've found the truth, let's decide what to do with it. For a long moment, no one moved. The air in the courtroom had that fragile weight of something about to break. Judge Caprio looked at the boy, then at the thin folder in his hands. His voice, when it came, was almost gentle. Caden, your father isn't the millionaire you imagine. He works 60 hours a week, overtime, weekends, so you can sit here today as a free young man, not a statistic. Tell me, do you even know where he is right now? Caden blinked, thrown off by the question. He's at work. Caprio shook his head. No, he's in this building. The words hit like a gavel. A few people in the audience gasped. The sound rolled through the benches like a wave. The doors opened. A man stepped inside, mid-40s, oil stains on his sleeves, one arm bandaged to the elbow. He held his cap in his hands. His name was Danny Ross. The businessman's son had described didn't exist. What stood there was a mechanic. Caden froze, his breath catching halfway. Dad, Danny gave a tired nod. Morning, kid. He turned toward the judge. Your Honor, I didn't come to pay. I came so he could hear what it costs me every time he decides nothing matters. Caden's voice cracked. You could have told me. Danny smiled, not unkindly. Told you what? That I come home smelling like grease so you can fill your car with gas and pretend you're grown? You wouldn't have listened. I would have. Caden shot back. You were never there. You bought things, but you weren't there. Danny exhaled, the kind of sigh that comes from years, not minutes. I didn't buy things, son. I bought minutes. The ones that keep us breathing while you figure out who you are. The room went utterly still. Even the fluorescent lights seemed to dim. Caprio didn't interrupt. He watched the two of them, the distance between them no longer just physical. Danny's hands trembled slightly. Caden's eyes shimmered with something he didn't yet know how to name. Do you know why I gave you that car? Danny asked. So you could feel like a man? Caden spat. No, Danny said quietly. So you could drive yourself towards something better than me. Caden's jaw locked. You think this, standing here, makes me better? I think showing up does, his father answered. Caprio finally spoke, his tone low and steady, like a line of scripture. Gentlemen, this courtroom has seen every kind of crime, anger, greed, pride. But the worst ones aren't on record. They happen in kitchens and driveways, when people stop seeing each other. Neither father nor son spoke. Their silence was its own confession. Caprio turned slightly toward the gallery. When we talk about fines, we mean money. But there's another kind of debt, the kind paid in sleepless nights and years you don't get back. He looked at Caden again. Your father's paid both. You just didn't send the receipt. Caden's throat moved. He started to speak, then shook his head. I didn't know he was working that hard. Danny gave a faint chuckle that didn't reach his eyes. That's the point. If I did it right, you weren't supposed to see the struggle. But maybe I did it too well. The judge leaned forward. You see, Caden, fathers build walls to protect their children. But sometimes those walls turn into prisons, on both sides. Caden stared at his shoes, his voice small now. I thought you didn't care. Danny stepped closer, enough that the sound of his boots echoed. I care more than you'll ever understand. I just didn't know how to say it before you stopped listening. The line landed like a verdict. No one breathed. Caprio's voice broke the silence. Not loud, just certain. Today, this isn't about tickets or payments. It's about a man who's been paying all along, and a boy who's finally old enough to notice. The judge closed the folder, not as an end, but as an acknowledgement. Let's take a moment, he said softly, because truth deserves silence before it turns into words. For once, the courtroom obeyed. Judge Caprio let the quiet linger just long enough for everyone to feel it. Then he set the file aside, folded his hands, and looked from father to son. Caden, he said, I won't ask who's right. That's the question every family ruins itself trying to answer. What matters is who's willing to listen first. The boy's voice was rough, almost whispering. You think I don't care? Caprio shook his head. I think you were never shown how to care without conditions. Your father tried to buy time, hoping it would count as love. You learned to take without asking what it cost. That's not cruelty, it's inheritance. Danny's shoulders slumped. He's right, Your Honor. I worked like a man trying to outrun failure. Every hour at the shop, I told myself I was doing it for him. But the truth is, I was hiding in the noise. It's easier to fix engines than to fix silence. Caden looked at his father, eyes wet. I just wanted you home. Danny nodded slowly. And I wanted you proud. Guess we both missed the mark. Caprio leaned back. His tone softened, but his words cut clean. I see men like you every day, on both sides of this bench. One trying to earn love, the other trying to spend it. You both end up broke. He lifted the stack of citations. These pieces of paper aren't about traffic. They're about choice. Each one says, someone else will handle it. That's the reflex of a boy. But a man, he paused, a man pays what he owes, even if it's not in cash. Caden's jaw trembled. So what do I do now? Start by doing something that costs you. Caprio replied. Money's the easiest payment. Growth is the hard one. Danny took a step forward. I'll cover the fines, Judge. I just don't want this moment to disappear. Caprio gave a small smile. Then don't. Let him earn it. Caden blinked. Earn what? Your name? Caprio said simply. It's worth more than your car. You'll go back to school. You'll work a few hours each week at the hospital where your father fixed engines in the basement during his recovery. You'll help people who don't have a dad waiting outside. Caden's lips parted. And if I fail, then you fail forward, Caprio said. But you won't get out of trying. The judge turned toward Danny. Mr. Ross, let him do this himself. No bailouts this time. He's old enough to pay, and you're old enough to let him. Danny hesitated, then nodded. Understood. Caprio slid the tickets across the bench toward Caden. These are yours to resolve. The payment isn't due today. It's due when you understand what it means to be responsible. The boy stared at the papers, his reflection faintly visible in the glossy ink. Then he looked up, voice shaking. Thank you, Your Honor. He stopped, unsure what came after gratitude when words weren't enough. Caprio nodded once. Don't thank me. Show me. A ripple passed through the courtroom. Chairs creaking, someone clearing their throat. Not applause, not yet. Just release. The kind that happens when a storm finally breaks. As Caden and his father turned to leave, Caprio called after them. One more thing, he said. When you walk out of here, don't look at each other like strangers who share a last name. Look like two people who finally share a beginning. Danny rested a hand on his son's shoulder. You heard the man, he murmured. Caden smiled faintly through wet eyes. Yeah, guess I did. The door closed behind them, and for a long moment the judge stared at the empty bench before whispering, almost to himself. Justice isn't punishment. It's permission to start over. The morning light spilled across the polished wood of Judge Caprio's bench, catching on the edge of his papers. The courtroom was quiet, filled with that particular calm that arrives only after storms of truth. His clerk approached, holding a small, creased envelope. From Caden Ross, Your Honor. Caprio adjusted his glasses, studying the handwriting. Uneven, pressed hard into the paper, as if each letter carried weight. He opened the envelope and unfolded a lined page. Judge Caprio, you told me not to thank you, but to show you. I think I understand now. I've been volunteering at the hospital. At first, I hated it, the smell of antiseptic, the endless noise, the faces that looked through me. But then I started to see them. There's an old man who asks for water every hour. He's not thirsty. He just wants someone to notice he's still here. There's a boy about my age who can't walk after an accident. His father stays beside him day and night. Every time I pass their room, I think of mine. My dad still doesn't say much. But sometimes he drops by the hospital after work, greasy hands still smelling of engine oil, bringing sandwiches for the nurses. Last week he told me, you're finally using your hands for something that matters. That sentence has been echoing in me ever since. I used to think love was something that came easy, something you got for free. Now I know it costs time, patience, and humility. I don't know if I deserve forgiveness yet, but I'm earning it 1 hour at a time. Sincerely, Caden. Caprio read the letter slowly, lips moving without sound, then placed it flat on the desk. Around him, the low murmur of a new day began. Footsteps, shifting chairs, the faint hum of voices waiting for judgment. But for a brief, suspended moment, he stayed still, listening only to his own heartbeat. He whispered, "Sometimes justice isn't a sentence. It's a seed. And when it's planted right, it grows quietly." A soft knock. The clerk reappeared. "Next case, Judge." He nodded, folding the letter as carefully as if it were evidence of something sacred, and slid it into his folder. "Bring them in." When the doors opened, sunlight spilled through. For a fleeting instant, Caprio looked toward the courthouse steps outside. There stood two figures, one man in a stained mechanic's uniform, the other in hospital scrubs, both laughing softly at something simple and unimportant. Yet in their laughter was everything that mattered. Caprio smiled, more to himself than anyone. "He showed me," he said under his breath. He really did. He lifted the gavel and struck it once, lightly. Court is now in session. The sound echoed through the room, not of authority, but of peace. Justice, he thought, was never about punishment. It was about reminding people that redemption was still possible, even in silence.